Hi BookTube, happy Boxing Day. So it is the day after Christmas after I'm filming this, as I'm filming this. Sorry, I'm losing my books, my stacks, so I need to put these down. So I thought I would do a tag today. I'm going to do the Postscript Book Tag. Now, I don't know who created this tag off the top of my head. It just sounded like an interesting tag, but I will find the link to the creator of this tag, or at least I will post the video, Jennifer Brooks' video. She's the one who I watched her doing this tag. So I will post that in the description box below. So this, like the ratings and review book tag created by Gunpowder Fiction and Plot, this tag is kind of where you're thinking about your reading. Once again, you're thinking about your reading, and it's kind of also like the end of the year tag, book tag, where you're thinking about your reading and reflecting on it for the year. Okay, so you guys know the drill. I'll get a series of questions I answer. Okay, so question number 1. The longest book you read this year, and a book that took you the longest to finish. Now, originally, I would have said The Count of Monte Cristo, but I don't want to give that answer again. I've been reading it for so long, it's like, I don't want that always to be the answer. So technically that is the longest book, but I've been reading that for quite a few years. So, at least the answer I chose is one that I read. I started back in 2020, I think. Either in 2020 or 2019, and then finished it this year. So, see if I can find it. And that is Needful Things by Stephen King. In this one, it takes place in Castle. It's in Castle Rock this time, and there is a store that has been empty for years, and all of a sudden it gets filled by this mysterious man, Leland Gaunt, who owns an antique shop where he basically will provide whatever you think you need, but at a price. And those prices, the price seems somewhat harmless at first, but it slowly has a downward spiral domino effect. And this town slowly becomes chaos. And it kind of reminds me of his screenplay, Storm of the Century. Not the Steven Spielberg movie, but it's a screenplay that King wrote. It was never a book as far as I know. Where this town, again, small town in Maine, they are called Little Toll, and there is a big snowstorm at the time, and during that time, this mysterious man shows up, kills one of the older residents of the town, beats the crap out of her essentially with his cane, and shows up at the people where the rest of the town is hiding out until the storm passes, and makes a deal with them saying that you must give me one of your children for me to take on as a protege. And the rest of the movie is about them being haunted by this man, trying to decide what to do. And of course, the main character doesn't agree to this. And although another answer to one of these questions also very much applies to that movie. But I guess the reason why they're so familiar, this one and the other one I'm talking about, because he writes a lot of his stories all take place in a small town. It's how people handle crazy situations where their lives are on the line and they have to survive. I think a lot of his books would deal with that kind of. The difference is, of course, all the details in between, like who the monster is, and how the different people respond and the different types of people that. But this is under. This is about. It's in the 900. Yep. Oh, actually no. I thought it was 900, but actually it's 802. Although that's his. That's a. Yeah. So actually no. I thought it was in the 900s, but maybe the one I picked to represent the book on Goodreads. Maybe that's the 900 page mark. But I thought this was in 900 pages. But no, this is actually only 800. 802. So I did not realize that. I thought it was in the 900s. But so actually it's not technically well, maybe it still is. Yeah, because it's like a couple pages longer than Bleak House. And then my other answer to that question, the other question, what is the book that took me the longest? Which again, I could say Count of Monte Cristo. I mean, that is the book that's taking me. The Count of Monte Cristo is the book that's taken me the longest. But I'm going to, like I said, I didn't want to use that one again, so I picked East of Eden by John Steinbeck. This book took me quite a while. I started it multiple times. It's basically it's like actually the same kind of situation as with the Count of Monte Cristo, where I started it and then got sidetracked. And both of those books are very slow moving with their plots, and they're very character driven. It's kind of a retelling of the Cain and Abel story. If you're, if you read the Bible or know the Bible stories, that's it. That Cain and Abel and Adam and Eve, they're in the beginning of Genesis. Cain and Abel are Adam and Eve's two sons, and they're brothers and completely opposite of each other. And then something goes bad. Something goes wrong with them, and it goes bad, and it results in them being potentially punished by God. I think something along those lines. It's been, but in this one there's actually two sets of brothers. There is Adam Trask and his brother, his half brother Charles, or stepbrother. No, I think half brother. I don't know how that all works. And then you have, I guess stepbrother, because they have different moms. So stepbrother, and then you have Adam ends up having two sons, two twin boys. And in both cases, they both are fighting over a girl. And they're both completely opposite of each other and have very complicated relationships. It is really good. It's long and sometimes, and I got a bit slow at times. I kept starting and stopping, and then I was liking the where I was buying different copies of it. I wanted to find the perfect copy for me, so I got the Penguin edition, and then the regular Penguin, with the black framing, and there's the painting and stuff in the middle. Well, I had that one, but then I really liked these ones with the deckled edges. These Centennial editions are really pretty, so I ended up getting this one. And I finished out the story reading the original edition that I had, because it was still a decent size. It wasn't a hardback, so. But yeah, I kept starting and stopping with this book, and I still loved it. It's just, there were times when I got a little slow, and I got distracted by other books. So, that's the book that took me the longest. Even though technically the Count of Monte Cristo is the book that took me the longest. And I did finish that this year because I finally was like, I'm just going to listen to it in an audiobook. Okay, so finally we're on to question number 2. A book you read this year that was outside your comfort zone. And that is the Odyssey. Although I have read a few outside my comfort zone, but I picked the Odyssey. I'm just kind of getting into ancient literature. I'm very apprehensive about it. because I'm worried I will have trouble comprehending it and not being able to read it. But it definitely got my interest back a few years ago when I took my class, probably like in 2018 or 2019. Actually, no, it might be 2018 or 17, where I took that class first semester on British literature, and two of the works we read were Sir Gawain and the Green Knight, which I still have not seen the movie based on that poem, and Beowulf. And it's not ancient like this, like Greek mythology, but it's still the same kind of storytelling. And I really like those. And then after listening to people like Jean from Jean's Bookish Thoughts, it has gotten me more and more intrigued by ancient literature. So I finally decided to buy a copy of it. And this one is actually written like it looks like in prose. It doesn't look like it's like translated into prose, like more of a regular novel. So it made it a lot easier to read. Now, my copy of the Iliad looks like how I expected this to look, like a regular epic poetry. So I'm still gonna read that. Maybe this year or this coming year in 2022, I might read that one. But yeah, I was nervous, but it actually proved to be very easy to read this. There are still some dated aspects of it, like the female characters are either seen as victims or manipulative harpies, and so or they're just like a wife and mother, and it just doesn't. Women don't look good in this. Don't like they either don't look good or they look too perfectly the ideal woman for a guy. So, but I thought it was still really fun, and Odysseus is just such a little troublemaker. He's such a dumbass, and the part that most amused me was probably his encounter with the Cyclops. I mean, he was doing so good, then he just had to screw up right at the last minute, and then it resulted in big time consequences for him because he got cocky. Is all I'm gonna say. And I also love these editions. I love these cloth-bound editions of these books. I was hoping to get a cloth-bound of the Ten Wildfell Hall this year, but I didn't. So maybe I'll buy it myself or just buy another copy. So I want to get another cloth-bound because I really like these cloth-bounds. And I don't have to deal with the dust jacket either, so. But yeah, it was definitely different for me, So, but I tried it and I really liked it, and there's still plenty of books that are on my covers that I'm trying to read this year, and some really long books that I need to get to this year. Okay, so question number 3 is, how many books did you reread? And if I counted right, I think it's a 9, either 9 or 8. So, like I read some of, I read The Fall of House of Usher, but actually I thought I read that one in college in one of my literature courses, but I'm not sure if I did. I know I read The Cask of Amontillado, The Cask of Amontillado, and then but I didn't read that one this year, and then of course I read The Raven. And I think I've read The Tall Tale Heart, but I didn't get to that one this year, so I think I thought I read The Fall of the House of Usher, but I don't think I read it before this year, which I was kind of disappointed by that. That's my thing about short stories. Oftentimes I end up being disappointed. Some of them I really like, but some of them it's just like I'm expecting more. I want more, and I struggle with sinking my teeth into the story. So I guess that means it was 8 stories I reread. So let's see. I reread The Gunslinger and The Drawing of Three, the first books in the Dark Tower series. I read those years ago. Like, I read the first 3 books in the Dark Tower series, but it's been so, and I started reading the 4th book, but I ended up stopping, and I wasn't concerned that I did enough because I'm coming back to it now, which is Wizard and Glass. So I'm rereading the first 3 books. I've got through the first 2, because The Gunslinger is not that long. It's actually short compared to all the other books. So I reread those 2. I definitely enjoyed them a lot more and really appreciate them more. And in my defense, I think the problem before when I first read them is I was kind of just getting into Stephen King. And I was so used to books like Twilight and Harry Potter that it was very different fantasy. And also it was a Western. And, I was not into Westerns. I'm still not entirely into Westerns. Like, I probably will never read Lonesome Dove. But, I still, but I liked it. I definitely enjoyed it. And I don't understand why people don't. I mean, I guess the only thing I think of that, it's very confusing. And in The Gunslinger, he just kind of throws you into the world. He doesn't really explain anything. I don't know, maybe it's that. Maybe there's other stuff that I missed that wouldn't, I don't know. I like the drawing of 3, but I think I remember liking the 3rd book, The Wastelands, a lot better than the drawing of 3. But that one introduced the other main characters. Susanna, although she's not called Susanna until towards the end of the book. Susanna and Eddie are introduced, and we get their backstories. And I don't really connect with Eddie. I like Susanna, and I like Susanna as a character more as a person. Eddie, he was definitely an interesting character. And there's definitely some, if you know about Stephen King, I'm pretty sure he put some of his own history into Eddie's character. But I just did not connect with him. But I did start to like him later on. Okay, and then I'm not talking about those because I can just do a review. Okay, so, but I'm actually gonna try to wait to read all 7 books before I do a review on the series. Okay, so next is, the other ones I reread the other rereads were Dracula. I reread that one. Definitely appreciate and like it a lot more this time around. But I did start to skim towards the end because I was kind of getting fed up with the constantly trying to think up things, trying to come up with a plan to defeat Dracula. And, I'm trying to explain to people and them waiting around. And, now it wasn't as annoying as, like, A Deadly Education, but there was it felt a little bit, info dumpy at times. Like, it's one of those books where I think sometimes people would probably prefer the movie versions of Dracula than the original book, but I think try it out though, just see first before you dismiss it. The other is The Diviners. I listened to it on audiobook. I have the second book, Lair of Dreams, in hardback. It was a book that I got from a friend, but then it just wasn't, and I really enjoyed it. I had a good time. Everything started to slowly come back to me as I listened to it. Actually, no, not audiobook. It was ebook. That's right. It was on ebook. I was wanting to get on an audiobook, but they didn't have the audiobook, they just had the ebook, so I read it on ebook on my phone, to be more specific. So, that was really good. I don't know if I'm going to read Lair of Dreams or not. I might see if I can get it on audiobook. Get all of them on audiobook. Okay, and I really had a good time. That was a fun series. Of My Cement I reread this year. I liked it. I don't love as much as some people do. It's a very sweet story. I do like the relationship between the two male characters. That was really sweet. It's an interesting book. One of those people said the word interesting a lot, but it wasn't a bad plot. It was very sweet story and a very, I like very gritty, and I like the relationship between the two, like I said, the two main characters. George, that was one of them, George and Lenny, those were their names. George and Lenny. And it is sad at the end, but I don't cry during books anyway, so, I might, if I ever watch the movie someday, then I might cry during the movie. It's just weird when you read a book and it's so hyped and you just, I think that's sometimes why people don't like hype, because then they read something and like, I don't get why everyone loves this. What's so great about it? You know, I mean, it's okay, but it's not like, wow, everyone else it's like brilliant, I don't get it. I think I felt a little of that with Of Mice and Men. You know, like, I think because it's very, the friendship is great, and it's kind of sad towards the end. I don't know, and it's, you know, you feel bad that how, it kind of talks a lot, and I guess it kind of looks into mental health a little bit with Lenny's character, and you feel bad for how he's treated by society because of his special needs, in that he doesn't have the same quote-unquote intelligence capacity that George and some of the other characters do. Okay, and then the last one are, I said the two of Jane Austen novels I reread this year, Emma and Sense and Sensibility. I listened to, first time was on audiobook when I took an Emma story, and then this time I actually read the book. And then Sense and Sensibility, I think I definitely made the, last time I read it in the big omnibus I had of all 7 of Jane Austen's novels. But this one, I have an individual copy. So I think that really helped me appreciate and get into the story more, because I was reading from a physical copy that was a little more comfortable to read. So I generally think that helped. I connected a lot with the relationship with the two sisters, because I am also a sister, a younger sister. And Emma, it was fun to reread Emma again. And then I also reread, and then Rebecca was also my last reread this year. Again, another one that I really sunk my teeth into it this time around. And before I loved it, so it wasn't like some of these others where before I didn't love it as much, and I just thought it was okay. This time, I mean, I feel the same way, maybe even more so when I read the first time, this second time. I did see the most recent movie adaptations, and I think this was one of the first times where I have a little bit of opinion on it and feel like it's missing something. Okay, so those are all my rereads that I read this year. Okay, so I'm definitely doing a lot more rereading the last couple of years. Okay, so question that was number 3. So number 4, favorite reread of the year. And I said Emma. Oh, this is the edition I have of Emma. Emma by Jane Austen. I love this. This was so fun to read. Emma is this rich, vain, sweet, has good intentions young woman who, it's just her and her dad, and the book starts with her tutor, I think either housekeeper or like her nanny or tutor, whatever, gets married in the beginning of the book, and you find that Emma's the one that kind of put them together, or at least she claims to match them together. And this gives her an idea of, oh, I can play matchmaker to other couples. And this other woman, this young woman about Emma's age, shows up in town. We don't know anything about her background. And Emma decides to take her on as a protege, kind of turn into a twin, another version of herself. And she tries to match her up several times. Does not go well. And she's someone who, she cares about and has really good intentions for people, but she just doesn't understand people as much as she thinks she does. She has this very close relationship with her sister's brother-in-law, and there might be a little romance between the two of them. So, like, Emma is so charming and very, like, if it wasn't, I think, like, first of all, I think for me personally, I think what really helps it takes place in a different time period. And I think my friend Terry from Florida would like, I don't know if she's read this one or not, but I definitely think she would like this one a little bit more than the modern version of an Emma type person, because I know she doesn't like those type of personalities that Emma has, but I think because this is a different time period, it might be a little less irritating. It might be even charming and endearing, Emma's personality, in which or at least I think it is. And she's not mean. She's not. I mean, she can sometimes be mean. Like, there's this big thing in the story where she says something mean to a friend, and she gets called out on it by Knightley, the guy I mentioned earlier, the brother. She gets so it all kind of backfires on her a little bit. Even though, and she's just someone that even Jane Austen herself said that she's someone only she herself could love. And that's not true. I mean, I think I'm not the only one. I think Emma was one of the more popular of her novels because Emma is such a fun character. Like, if it's not Elizabeth, it's Emma, I think, for a lot of people. Okay, so next question is question number 5. A book you read for the first time that you look forward to rereading in the future. And I ended up picking 2 books for this question. Here they are. First of all, I picked a classic first. Something Wicked This Way Come by Ray Bradbury. And Ray Bradbury, most of you probably know him as the author of Fahrenheit 451, a book that you probably had to read in school. This is one of his more fun works, I think. This carnival comes to this town, this mysterious carnival. It shows up in town one night, and our main characters, these 2 boys. Okay, it doesn't say their names, but these 2 boys that are like kind of either they're getting into their teen years or coming of age. They discover this carnival, and they are excited about it first, but then they discover that the carnival is not what it seems, and there's something sinister about it. It actually makes me think of something Stephen King would write, which he actually blurbed it. A Dark Poetic Tale is probably Bradbury's best work. I think this is part of a sort of series that takes place in the same town. But I feel like so far, from what I can tell, you can read these as standalones. But this was just so fun and mysterious and very creepy, and I love, the bad guy. He's just so, like, eerie and mysterious, and you can't trust him, but you're drawn to him at the same time, and just, it's a great coming-of-age tale. I would love for my nephews to read it one day. It's just so fun and creepy, and I am a sucker for carnival stories, where there's a sinister carnival. And then the other book I chose for this was The Gates of Rome by Con Igundolin. I don't know how to say his last name. This is the first book in a 4-book series, the Emperor series, and it's pretty much the story of Julius Caesar, a fictionalized version of him. This book starts with him when he's a little boy, and then he eventually, with his best friend, they go to Rome. And it shows how he started on the path to becoming Julius Caesar. And his best friend becoming Brutus. And it was really cool, and something that I don't, something normally that I don't read. It was a little different. And it's kind of fun to see this take on the story, because I don't know a lot about Julius Caesar. Because, I read the play by Shakespeare, where it's about his up till him getting betrayed by Brutus and the other guys. So it kind of just got my attention, and I really liked it. I had a good time reading it. And it's an easy read. So the next one is the Death of Kings. I need to read that. Then you have the Field of Swords, and then the Gods of War. And then he wrote also a story of Genghis Khan as well, a series about him. So I guess a lot of his books are mostly historical fictions about famous, warriors and kings and stuff, it seems like. So those are the two books I want to reread. I don't know if I'll reread Gates of Rum this year, because I definitely need to read the next book in the series. It's just, I wanted to choose something other than a classic, so, for this answer. Okay, so question number 5, question number 6. Favorite single short story or novella that you read this year? And I just picked one that I read recently, and that is The Mist by Stephen King. This is in the Skeleton Crew collection, and it has been adapted. I don't know what year. I think it was like early 2000s when it was adapted. Marcia Gay Harden is in it. I don't know any of the other actors, but there are people that I think Stephen King that have been used in Stephen King screenplays before. I decided to read the first two in this collection. So we have, so that was The Mist, and I read Here There Be Tigers, which Here There Be Tigers was kind of disappointment. It was one of those situations where it had something for me, but it just felt incomplete. Like, it felt like it was missing something. But The Mist was such a great story. This is the one I was referring to that reminded me of Storm of the Century and Needful Things, where you have these people in a small town, and there was an electrical storm the night before, so a lot of the people in this town have to go back to the grocery store and get their necessities, and you have a father and son go to the local grocery store, accompanied by a sort of friend. He's not exactly a friend, but he's, but they go together, and then they notice this mysterious mist slowly creeping up, and then eventually, while they're shopping in the grocery store, the mist envelops the whole town, and people do not know how to respond to it. And very quickly, they find out, our main character and some of the others find out that there are monsters in the mist that can kill you. But not everyone believes them. And some people are so desperate to get back to their loved ones that they don't care if there's monsters out there. And there's this whole thing with the guy that came with them. There's that whole plot. There's that little story. And then Marcia Gay Harden in the movie plays the Miss Commodity, who is a very religious and thinks this is end times and that God is punishing us or something. And those people can be downright scary. Even if you don't believe, in God and stuff like that, those people, those religious zealots can, the problem is they can gain followers, people that do believe, or in situations like this, like in the story, it can be worse. But this was so creepy, and I love the idea of the mist slowly creeping up on these people, and the idea of these creepy bugs in the mist. And I have theories about, they never really, when I saw the trailer for the movie, I did have my theories and suspicions that maybe when you go into the mist, something happens to you, you don't just get killed, but something else happens. But I'm pretty sure my theory was not, I don't think my theory was correct. But, now the movie adaptation, I do already know that I knew the ending was different from the book. The book ending is a little bit more open-ended. well, the movie's ending is 10 times more traumatic and tragic from what I've seen of it. But it was a great story. Okay, so next question. That was number 7. I hate these kinds of questions. I have such a hard time answering them because I never know, and I know people have said this to me before, that it doesn't matter because it's not real and you're not going to actually give a book to all these people or anything, but I just cannot think of an answer, and you can tell me that all you want, but I'm not going to be able to come up with the answer for you of a book that I would recommend to everybody or to them that had mass appeal, because I don't know. I can't think of it. I mean, I know there are books that did have mass appeal, like Twilight. I feel like Brandon Sanderson has mass appeal. The Witcher has mass appeal. But I don't know if I read any books by them. I mean, I've been meaning to read the next book in the Witcher series. I don't think I've read them this year, so I just don't have an answer for this one. Okay, so question number 8. Specialized appeal. Now, this is actually, I didn't have a problem with this one at all. A book you liked, but would be hesitant to recommend to just anybody. And I picked multiple answers. I picked 2 answers for this one, so let me talk about the one I don't have it, because I didn't want to go searching for it. I mean, I think I know where it is, but I didn't want to, dig through anything. And that is 3 Simple Men by Tolstoy. I know a lot of people love Tolstoy, Lev Tolstoy, but this has very religious undertones. It's basically a collection of folk tales, and they're beautifully written, but I don't think everybody would appreciate it. I don't think everybody would like it because it has a lot of Christian themes, and messages, and it's just, I don't think everybody would like that. I think some people might like it, and some people won't. I mean, they're beautiful messages in my opinion, but it's a very moral story, and there is a word for that, those kinds of stories that have a moral agenda. But they were short, and it was a way for me, another source of reading to add to my collection of Tolstoy's work that I've read. But yeah, I don't think it's appealing for everybody. Okay, and then the other answer was 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. So I wanted to read Jules Verne, and I decided to start with this one, 20,000 Leagues Under the Seas, and I thought it would be fun and exciting, but it turns out to just be a big disappointment. And I think really the only people that would like this are people who like studying the ocean, like learning about sea creatures and stuff like that. There's not a lot of action. I know that the Disney movie adaptation has a little bit more action in it than the book does. It's basically this guy, this French scientist. He and a servant, who I believe is from another country. I do not remember where. At least off the top of my head. It's been a few months, so they are going on this. They find out there's this rumor about this mysterious type, big, huge fish in the water that people want to, track down and kill or kidnap or whatever. So our French scientist and his servant go accompany this crew of sailors. And they think it's a narwhal that they've tracked down. And when our main characters almost drown, they end up being rescued by this supposed narwhal, who turns out to be a submarine, run by this man named Captain Nemo, an Indian, not Native American, but actually from India, who has decided to renounce society because society has screwed him over, treated him unfairly. He's experienced a lot of racism, so he's renounced society because he prefers the ocean and creatures of the deep. a lot more, and our main character accompanies him with a servant, along with a Canadian harpooner who also kind of went into the ocean with the two other guys and almost drowned. So they end up being prisoners on the boat, on the submarine, and the guy, Nemo's like, how about this, instead of being prisoners, you're still technically prisoners, but you can help me find this, study of the ocean with me. And the only person who's excited is the French scientist. The servant just goes along with this and he's sort of, interested in this kind of stuff too. So he doesn't have a lot of options, so he's just going with the flow and looking at the glasses being half full kind of guy, while the Canadian harpooner is just so frustrated and just wants to escape. And of course he's a harpooner, so he's looked down upon as very violent and cruel to animals, and he wants to get out of here. And he was the most exciting character, for me. I mean, the Captain Nemo had potential to be exciting, interesting, and even creepy, like an actual threat. But then he ends up not being. He ends up being very passive. And there were moments where I thought it could be a little more exciting, but it just was a big letdown. So, I was disappointed, but other people might like it and might find. And if you're into the ocean, studying the ocean, then I think you might like it. Especially because there's a lot of talk about the ocean and giving facts about it and stuff. But I do like this cover. I like I've said before, I like these word classic editions, word cloud classics editions. I do really like these. But yeah, this, I think if you like studying the ocean and learning about the ocean, exploring it, then you might like this. But fair warning, it's not that exciting. Okay, so next, that was question number 8. So the last question is kind of asking you to look at your goals and look and reflect on the year of your reading year. And I think it went okay, I definitely am still continuing to read a lot more classics. There were books I probably could tell you that I've been meaning to, get to, that I finally finished this year. Like, the biggest was The Count of Monte Cristo. I've been reading that for years. I had that book before I even moved here. So, it was one of the first bigger classics that I bought. So I finally finished it with the help of an audiobook. And so that to me was the most exciting, is that I actually finished The Count of Monte Cristo by Alexandre Dumas. That was a big thing for me. And I did do a video where I talked about, and I still like that video, despite the fact that there was an awkward situation with comments that made me a little uncomfortable. But other than that, I still feel very satisfied with that video and feel like I did well. It was basically me talking about that I did love this book. And I did enjoy the 2002 movie, even though I know yes, it is a bad adaptation. I know that. And I know a lot of people don't like that because it is a bad adaptation. But I enjoyed it. I had a fun time with it. I liked the casting of the actors. But that aside, because I don't want to talk too much about that, because the fact that I talked about that movie I think that movie adaptation, because that's the only one I've ever seen. So naturally I talked about that one in the video, even though the video was not about me talking about adaptations and saying, it was actually, it kind of was. It was a video where I talked about why I think it would make a great TV show. If you can't do a TV show, miniseries is great, and I don't know if there are any miniseries adaptations. I think there were. There probably was at least one. There had to be, because it's too long. Someone had to at least come up with some miniseries version of it. But I think I was talking about that. I think a TV show would be great for it, because they could explore the whole book overall, because that is over 1,000 pages book. So I'm sure you can understand my triumph that I finally finished that book. So I liked that video. I liked my recent video where I talked about how I listened to Charlie and Chocolate Factory via my nephew's Yodo player. It's an audiobook player for kids, and I listened to the novel for the first time. So I really liked it, and so I compared. After that, I ended up comparing the two adaptations, the 1971 and then the 2005 movie. And I lean more towards the 1971 movie. I tried to be objective. I don't know how well that worked, but I still liked that video. And I don't think there weren't any other videos that I felt like I really enjoyed doing. But I did kind of like my ratings and reviews tag video. I liked what I said in that. And I did make some progress in some series. Finally reading the second book in a series, in a lot of series. There's still a lot of books that I have started that I need to finish. But I feel this year wasn't too bad. There were some accomplishments I made. I continue to, unhaul books here and there, but it's not like I unhaul a bunch of books at the same time, though, so that's why I don't ever do videos. I just look at my shelves and pick books that I think I can unhaul, which is a little hard to do because, it's very hard to, because it will get to points where, like, I'm still excited and still interested in reading every one of the books almost all the books I bought, so it's very hard to narrow it down to books that I don't, and then a lot of times I like all the books that I've read. It's just I can't decide, okay, which one can I get rid of? Which one is not the end of the world if I get rid of it? So I have to ask myself those questions all the time. It's just, but anyway, so yeah, I feel pretty good about this year. I want to continue improving, in things like reading more classics, but I also want to try getting into fantasy again, and there's a lot of series that I want to progress on and potentially complete some of them, one or two of them. I didn't complete a trilogy this year, the Bartemius trilogy, because, there is a prequel to it where we get Bartemius, who is a djinn. We get kind of one of his other adventures, which it's a great middle grade series. It kind of goes into YA territory. It's like one of those ones where it starts out being kind of middle grade age. The main character, the main character, Nathan, the human character, not the djinn. And then he does get to 16, 17 years old. So I think young adult could read this, and I am saving it for when my nephews and niece get old enough, maybe when they're 12 or 13. Maybe they'll be old enough to read it. So I don't know if I'll get to the prequel or not, but I still count it as finished because I read the trilogy, so the main trilogy. And the author, I think, recently released the fourth book. So there is something I read. And there are some series that I didn't buy, like the Winter Night trilogy that I listened to all of it. It's a trilogy, so I was able to read all three books via the audiobook. I didn't buy them I got them from the library. And then and I made some good progress on, the Wayward Children series. I haven't read the most recent, but I read a lot of them. I've read a lot of the big audiobook / Libby, so that really helps. So I want to continue progressing on my series and read a lot more of the ones I have. And my biggest goal will still always be the 500 plus page, reading more of those and getting them done within the year instead of just taking too long. What I need to do is try to limit how many books I read in a year, which is very difficult. And I keep telling myself this every year, but I never fall all the time, and I never fall through with it. It's just wait until the last minute, till the very end of the year, before you pick your books. Because then I will end up picking a whole bunch of books because I'm staring at my shelves thinking, oh, I want to read that one. I want to read that one this year. And if I think too much, if I plan too much ahead, then I'll think too much about it. And then I'll end up getting a bunch of books. So I figure if I wait until the last day of the month, going into the next month, then maybe that will take some of the some of the desire to maybe that will take the temptation of reading so many books in a month. Because there's a lot of 500 plus page books that I need to read and I want to finish within the month. So that's still one of my biggest goal this year. And then there's I want to read more historical fiction, and I feel like I've kind of fallen off the fantasy tightrope a little bit, and I want to get back into it and focus again on my fantasy as well. And then I'm slowly getting more into horror books. I'm reading, I'm trying to buy books that aren't Stephen King books. And I feel like the thing about, I did buy a Joe Hill book, but I feel like, in Nosferatu too, but it's his son, so it's still connected to Stephen King, so it's still a little bit, it's a bit of a cheat there. But I did read, The Ghost Tree, which, I have it behind me somewhere. The Ghost Tree by Christina Henry, which is another small town story about, and about this town that makes a deal with the devil, and there's a monster that they have to sacrifice 2 of their girls. It made me think of the episode of, with the scarecrow and Supernatural. The creepy scarecrow. I do not remember what that episode is called, but where the town would sacrifice 2 young people to the scarecrow. So there's that one, and then I read The Only Good Indians at the beginning of this month, and then I read back in October, I read Dracula by J.D. Barker and Dacre Stoker and J.D. Barker. So yeah, I'm trying to stretch my legs a little bit. I haven't gone into, I've been meaning to the Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires. I've been meaning to get to that one. I still haven't. And I want to check out Kill Creek, but it's not on my Books A Million. I know, so the last time I checked, the Southern Woman's Guide to Slaying Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires, was there last time I looked. So hopefully it's still there. There is still a copy because I want to get that one. But yeah, so again, I'm repeating again, I feel like this year was okay. I still, I'm always feeling like I could continue to improve. And I will, and of course, I set goals. I did post a video a while back where I gave my goals for the year, so I think it was back in November, so. I don't remember what my goals were off the top of my head, but yeah, work on reading 500 plus page books, and, stretch my horror legs a little bit. Okay, so that is the Postscript Book Tag. If you want to do this tag, consider yourself tagged. It's fun to kind of reflect on your reading for this year, for the past year. And like I said, I will post to create this. If not, I will at least post Jennifer Brooks' video. And even if I do find the creator of this tag, I will still post Jennifer Brooks' video, I think. So I will talk to you guys later. And I hope you enjoyed this tag. If you guys did, give it a thumbs up. Click subscribe if you have not already. And click the bell notification if you want to be notified when I post new videos. And I hope you're enjoying your reading. And I will talk to you all later. Alright, bye!